Hello, hi there, everybody. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're from. I'm really excited to talk to you about 3D scanning for product design today, which is the subject for our talk today. But before we get into it, I just want to make a brief introduction to our special guest from Saucony. We have Luca, who's Director of Product Engineering, and Isaac, who is a lifestyle footwear designer at the firm. And they develop new products. We're talking lifestyle and sportswear brand footwear. And yeah, it's really exciting. We have a case study on our website about it already. I can't wait to tell you more. But I'm going to start by giving you a brief introduction to Artec 3D and what we do as a company, and then I'll get Luca and Isaac on stage. So, who are Artec 3D? Artec 3D are a Luxembourg-based 3D scanner manufacturer. We develop 3D scanning software as well, and we're best known for developing professional products. So we're aiming at kind of the slightly higher end of the market, the professional side. We're really into developing high accuracy, really high resolution 3D scanners that deliver lifelike 3D models. So you could be talking about a small item, a part in manufacturing. You could be talking about a person for CGI or VFX, or entire environments and structures. So it could be a building or a factory, or even larger infrastructure with our newer devices. So you can see some of the awards we've won in the past. We're pretty good at this. We've been doing it for quite some time. We're one of the best established in the industry here. And here are some of the products that we offer. So along the top, you can see our handheld 3D scanners, Eva, Leo, Spider II, and Point. And along the bottom, some of the longer range stuff. We've got Jet, our newest scanner, which captures from up to 300 meters, Ray 2, 130 meters, and Micro 2, which is for really, really small things in high accuracy. Artec Studio is our 3D scanning software, so it knits all these scanners together in one ecosystem. And one of the really cool, unique selling points of our products is that you can combine these scanners. So you can combine the longer range scanning with capturing smaller objects in the scene in higher accuracy. So yeah, this is Artec 3D scanning. Here are some of our more famous customers. I'm sure you recognize a couple of the names on here at least. And we're used everywhere from product design, which we're going to talk about today, to education, automotive, even CGI and VFX, as I mentioned. So we've got a pretty broad remit. But what about product design? This is kind of our focus for today. These are the three main products that are relevant in this area. Artec Leo is this wireless handheld. It has a built-in battery, display, and processor. So it's kind of this all-in-one unit. It's a great all-rounder for product design, and it's really fast, and it delivers accurate results. Point has even higher accuracy. It's a target-based scanner, but it's more for kind of industrial metrology and that sort of thing. And then we have Spider II, which was used in the Ciccone project that we have a case study about it on our website. And Ciccone have many other projects I'll describe to you later on. And Spider II was the scanner of choice, really high resolution, captures these fine surface details. To give you some examples, so Leo, I just mentioned, is fast, it's versatile. You can use it anywhere. This guy on the right-hand side, he's not just for marketing. We do actually have people who hang off the sides of bridges and things with this scanner. So it's really versatile. With Artec Point, it's this industrial one, like I said. So it has these three modes for scanning with like parallel lines, a grid, or like individual lasers. So it can scan holes, things like this industrial part you see in the middle, and this kind of engine part, which has all these kind of nooks and crannies and hidden details. Point is great for this kind of part. And Spider II, the subject of our webinar, high resolution, like I mentioned. You can see this kind of piece of jewelry in the middle. Even the little flowers and the leaves are picked up there. And it picks up even tiny facial details. So even we're talking pores and wrinkles and, tiny, even freckles and things like this, fine facial features that it wouldn't be possible to capture with any other device, really. So all these scans get fed into Artec Studio. This is where the capture and the processing happens. And it's a bit of an all-in-one software nowadays. So we've got scanning, processing, you can edit the results. You can even use photogrammetry to touch up the results with things like photo texturing. So you can add photos to the scan to make it more realistic. And then we have some basic reverse engineering and inspection functionalities in there as well. So the idea is if you want really advanced results, or if you want to access an advanced software, you can send the files elsewhere. But all the basics are included in Artec Studio. And this is a bit more of a step-by-step breakdown. So we have scanning, processing, which uh, there's a few steps involved here, but it's just aligning and fusing several scans if you scan from different places. You polish up the results. I mentioned photo texturing just now, but you can also do some analysis stuff in the software if you need to. Let's say you were in a quality control workflow, you want to make sure that the product is as designed once you've made it. You can scan it, feed it into our software, and then compare it to the original design. And you can also export to, let's say you're doing manufacturing stuff, you could send it to SolidWorks or Rhino, or if you want to kind of iterate on the design, you could send it to Blender or somewhere like that. And yeah, that's the workflow. So before I hand over to the guys at Saucony, these are some other examples of kind of use cases, real life use cases out in the field of our scanners. And when we talk about product design, there are all sorts of different use cases. There's design, there's customization, there's visualization, so you can create really realistic looking marketing products. And there's quality control, which I just mentioned as well. So CPE is one of our customers out in the USA. They customize automotive parts. And in the use case we have on our website, they were tasked with customizing the Ford Bronco kind of pickup. And they, as you can see from Anthony, our contributor and a guy who works at CPE, he's kind of jacked the car up and he can scan underneath without even having to remove the exhaust pipe. And then he can use that scan data to customize the part. It could be performance, it could be to improve the sound that it churns out. But the point being is that you no longer have to kind of do manual measurement, which involves removing the part. And it means you can do it all wirelessly, target free. It's a really seamless process. And as you can see from Anthony's quote in the top right-hand corner there, it really accelerated their process and allowed them to churn through customers more quickly and basically improve efficiency and profit. Now, moving on to visualization. So we have another customer who customizes, or another customer who digitizes furniture, I should say. So you can see at the bottom here 3 pictures of different pieces of furniture and furniture sets. These are not photos. These are 3D scans. And the textures would ordinarily be very difficult to scan with another device. We're talking about fluffy things, hairy things like rugs, polished, varnished surfaces. This is where our scanners really come into their own. Like you can create photorealistic models of these kind of dark and shiny objects where it wouldn't be possible in any other way. And in the case of furniture, in the case of this customer, you can have a digital piece of furniture that you can place around the room in a virtual space. And you can almost do like virtual design. You can weigh it up and be like, how does this fit in with my existing setup? And when you're shopping online, you also get a real look at the genuine fabrics. You get a real look at how the product will appear in real life, rather than kind of a touched up marketing image. And for this customer, they found that basically people get a better idea of the final product, and it improved customer satisfaction. So they are currently on their way through digitizing all these different furniture sets, getting them online and giving people a better preview of what they're going to get when it finally arrives. Another design case now. So I'm sure you've all heard of the TV show The Masked Singer. So as celebrities, they wear these really colorful costumes, and people at home have to guess who's underneath. In the French version of The Masked Singer, they actually created this wonderful looking costume. It was called the Geisha Samurai, using Artec Spider. So you can see Spider at the bottom there with the mask. And essentially, the challenge that they had before was creating these really innovative designs, shall we say, that in a way that when they fitted them to the celebrities, they fitted exactly. They were comfortable for the celebrity to wear. And also they had to kind of design and manufacture them elsewhere and ship them in. So there was always a risk that these really kind of finely designed masks would get chipped or they'd get damaged on the way as well. So to avoid these challenges, they started using 3D scanning. And that allowed them to make these costumes to measure. So they fitted perfectly to the celebrity underneath. And they were able to make them in-house. And doing so meant that they cut this whole risky transport method out of the workflow completely. And now they have kind of improved quality control. They can do the whole process faster. And these guys are really artsy folk. They're really creative. And having all this stuff at their fingertips, it opens new design pathways to them. So yeah, this is a really cool one. I'm sure you'll agree that it's quite an interesting looking costume. And I'm told that actually in the series that just aired, there was another costume after this one. So it's not something they did as a one-off. they still use our scanners. And in terms of quality controls, this one's a bit more industrial. When we talk about products, we can also mean like an industrial product. In this case, there's a customer called Oscar Products in the USA. They ship in castings in the manufacturing process from somebody else who makes them, and they need to make sure that they fit perfectly because they only have very fine tolerances. And if it doesn't fit, if they make parts with these castings and they're incorrect, they're going to lose a lot of money on wasted material. So how do they check? Well, when it arrives, they use Leo and in some cases Spider, depending on the nature of the casting, to verify the design against the as-built product. And as you can see from my slides, it is a hell of a lot faster than using a CMM machine or taking manual caliper measurements. In many cases, they can even do this design comparison inside Artec Studio with deviation analysis. But in other cases where, say, it's a more complex part, they might send it to Geomagic DesignX, and that's fine because we have integration with the software already. So you can send it to DesignX if you need to. So that covers off some of the other guys that are using our scanners. Now let's move on to the main event. So we have a little teaser here for the Ciccone project that saw them bring back a classic 1990s design. Hopefully I can get this to play. We don't have any more issues. I won't try and make it full screen. There we are. So it's only a short snippet. Hopefully that gives you a nice teaser as to how Saucony are using our projects. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to the lovely Isaac and Luca, who can tell you a bit more about how they use our products. Welcome, guys.
Isaac, do you want to make an introduction to yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Isaac Neaves. I currently work as a lifestyle designer for the Saucony product team. I've been in the footwear industry about 7 years. I got my start at Timberland working as a product engineer there. And in 2021, I think, I got hired by Luca and was working under him on the Saucony product engineering team. And then about 2 years ago, I transitioned into the lifestyle space as a designer. But working on the engineering side, I learned a lot about the technical footwear creating process, and we dove deep into software and things that were going to help us make better shoes. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm Luca Ciccone. I'm the director of product engineering at Saucony. I've been working in the footwear industry for way too long, but the cool thing is that I get to learn many new things about all these new technologies. And I'll tell you something about 3D scanning. It has helped accelerate our workflow quite a bit. And one of the slides here that I want to showcase to all of you is that the cross-functional applications for this are completely limitless. We talk about R&D, we talk about engineering, we talk about marketing. I feel that every time we look at a project and we scan it in and we create that asset, we're just able to do some pretty incredible things. Your creativity is unlimited with what you can do once you have a super high quality 3D scan that's perfectly textured. And I want Isaac to showcase one of the more wilder projects we got to do here. This is something that he and I got very creative with this one. Isaac, I want you to share this one and talk about the tortoise in the
Yeah.
hare.
Thanks, Luca. From a bird's eye view, we have worked on things that we expected to work on and a lot of fun wacky things that we never thought we'd come across. And this is definitely one of them. I think a lot of people are familiar with the old fable about the tortoise and the hare. But one thing I would never think I would have worked on is creating slot cars based on shoes inspired by the tortoise and the hare. So that's something that we'll talk about a little bit more,
I
but
wanted
just
to
to preview here.
I wanted to set the tone for this presentation that the amount of fun things that we've been able to do that have helped the brand get loads of attention, especially when it comes to collaborations. Collaborations are one of Saucony's strong suit. And believe me when I say we put just as much innovation in our technical product as we do across the board when it comes to lifestyle and everything else that we do. But something that I want to set home is these three main points here. The fact that we invested in Artec probably about 5 years ago, we started off with an Artec Leo and a Space Spider. And I felt that once we started scanning these assets, we truly started realizing that the accuracy and the details that we're able to get out of our scans is truly important. Just the fact that we can get down to the fractions of a millimeter, and the fact that we can get those texture maps looking absolutely perfect. The example here that I'm showing in the photo, Isaac's there in the background scanning it. This is an old school Saucony indoor soccer shoe. That's the original sample that was built in the 80s. And over to your right, you can see this. That's a scan quality. It looks very photorealistic. And the fact that I can bring this into a Rhino, into a blender, and be able to have that type of quality asset, and the fact that we're able to take these old school samples that aren't made anymore, there isn't any 3D data, there isn't any type of engineering data whatsoever, and we're able to reverse engineer that to the accuracy level that we need to. Believe me when I say, when you develop product, textures, details matter. Those are things that Isaac and myself and the rest of the entire team absolutely look forward to. But I want to start off by kicking it back to Isaac to talk about this ComplexCon project that we worked with on the tortoise and the hare, and a bit of a scary moment that ended up working out in such a huge way that I felt like was a great, just holistic way of how we got to use these scanners in a very innovative way.
Yeah, so a little context on this. For anyone unfamiliar with ComplexCon, it's a weekend-long festival referred to as the Cultural Super Bowl. So it celebrates fashion, food, art. A lot of streetwear brands have booths there because it really invites the consumer who is tapped into cool sneakers. And a lot of brands will showcase either a new drop or new product there. And one thing to mention is that if you have a booth there, you go all out. You really you want to leave the people attending with a memory there. And our collab partner, maybe tomorrow, who brought to life the tortoise and the hare shoes, they came to us and they tasked us with an idea they had. And their idea was to create slot cars based on their two shoes so that people could race them at their booth at ComplexCon.
This is where things began to get interesting. They tasked Isaac and us with this idea. Hey, you both of you are engineers. You can figure this out. I've never done something like this before, by the way. I'm a tinkerer. Isaac's a tinkerer. I love to take things apart. I put them back together. I love hacking. I love doing all kinds of things. This is something where we took one of the cars. I started to realize that there were mounting points on it for the body. I started taking things apart and I realized that, oh, I can just take this chassis. I can 3D scan it with our Artec Spider, be able to get the mounting points from it. If you look at the image to the left here, that's exactly what I did in order to get that ultra accurate representation of how we wanted it to mount against the car. I don't know if you can see my camera right now, but this is the final car right here, and everything aligned perfectly with getting it mounted on there. Then it came with the shoe body. We swapped over the car body with a shoe body on top of that. And what's cool about getting the ultra awesome detailed textures from the scan itself is that it came out perfectly. We ended up having these 3D printed out of a nylon material, out of an HP multi-jet fusion, where we're able to take all of that texture mapping, that very vivid color that we're able to get from the Artec scanner, 3D print it, and then do a coating process in order to help protect it. We put everything together and everything started to work. We went back and forth with getting everything to work on the track. It's nylon. It was pretty tough. They were going to be used at a trade show. This is the part where we're kind of saying, this is working out very well. They looked spectacular, and we were quite literally building a race against the tortoise and the hare that many people visiting the booth at ComplexCon would be able to experience themselves. Isaac, you have to tell them about this one. I want to make sure that we're giving a cameo over to our Artec Leo.
Yeah, yeah. And if you thought like the cars were it, there's a lot more to this ComplexCon booth that involved the scanners. So Luca mentioned that we do also have a Leo, and also mentioned was that these scanners are just inducive to creativity. I think pictured here is Mark and Ryan from Maybe Tomorrow. And just in some downtime, they just asked if we could scan them. They wanted us to print out almost action figure like, figurines of them for just for the fun. And we ended up doing it, and they liked the figurines so much that they wanted to include themselves in the booth at Complex Con. So on this next slide, you'll see how it came to be.
It was hilarious. If you look at Mark and Ryan, they were positioning themselves. One was holding their shoebox on top of their head. We were able to scan it with the Leo on that. I know people were using Leos to scan doing full human body scans, but the whole reason why we bought the Leo was for the fact of its portability and that we don't have to have a computer hooked up to it in order to scan it. We wanted to scan athletes' feet with it. Again, we have a huge athlete program at Saucony, and being able to capture their data is super important for R&D use. But the periphery uses of, hey, we want to excite our collab partners by bringing them quite literally into a digital area to utilize them as assets. And if you check out the track, this is what how everything looked like. And if you look here, I'm going to use my mouse pointer to go through it here. You can see how they were positioned in a way where we're just able to set them all along the track. It turned out way better than I expected this to. And this is where both Isaac and myself got super excited about it. And Isaac, you were there. You have to showcase just how excited everybody was when these cars were flying off the track and we were waiting for one of them to break. Go ahead.
Yeah. We really had to go into this event with a positive mindset. We were transporting the track and everything ourselves. The event was in Southern California and we're based in Boston. So everything was going across the country and we were just hoping that it would turn out well. And it really did. As you can see in the photos, everyone who just saw the booth had an immediate smile. And once they got to race the cars, it was just a really great time. We even had competitors at some of the adjacent booths come over and race, and they asked us, like, what agency did you use to build your booth? Like, it's really good. And we were like, oh, it's just ourselves. So that
Yeah.
was just a really fun moment. We thought
It
it was
was
funny.
it's a fun moment just because once you have and I felt that Paul did a great job saying once you get a scanner, you just your creativity can just quite frankly go to many different aspects. And if you start getting creative with the tools that you have, additive manufacturing, any type of ways of bringing tangibility to it, the sky's the limit. And that's what's super cool is every time somebody challenges us with a new idea to try something, we always end up utilizing our scanners for that. Isaac, this is going to be all you here because you worked on the Matrix and bringing this one back, and just how important Saucony Originals as far as getting the details right truly matters.
Yeah, yeah. So this part right here is sort of the meat and potatoes of what the lifestyle team uses the scanners for. And it's kind of the original intention that we got the scanners, at least one of them. So let's start off by just a quick intro to Saucony is that we're a 125-year-old heritage running brand. And if you look at the lifestyle marketplace right now, think brands like New Balance and Asics. They're killing it in lifestyle with retro runners. And Saucony, being a retro running brand, we wanted to get in there and start bringing back our old running shoes in the lifestyle space. So this was a big initiative for us. However, the shoes we identified to bring back, we didn't necessarily have CAD data. We do have a database. It goes back maybe 20 years, but after that, it's thrown into the abyss. We're kind of left on our own to figure it out. And I'll walk you through sort of our first bring back and what that looked like. But pictured here is a shoe we brought back called the Matrix. We had no 2D or 3D data for it, and we wanted to bring it back. So this is sort of what went down. We went on eBay and bought the one sample we could find, and that one sample was going to be the reference to bring this shoe back one to one, and with every level of detail. So we use that. We sent it to our manufacturing partners. It got cut up in the process. It probably got lost in the process. the amount of time it took to ship, it all added up and it was a little bit chaotic. And eventually we knew that we needed to try something else. This bring back process was not gonna be sustainable. If you go to a lifestyle store now and look at any of the Saucony product, they're all retro bringbacks. So it was important that we figure this out if we're gonna keep doing this. So ultimately, we bought one of the scanners. Uh, I myself did not know anything about using it, what even is 3D scanning, and I guess Luca can sort of take us through what's next.
Isaac, I thought you hit the nail on the head when it comes to we're getting shoes that have zero engineering or historical data that we can pull from it. They're just tangible objects that are sometimes fully destroyed or they're disintegrating just over the course of time. We have to catalog it. And this is where this slide comes up and it's something, it's the reason why we have the Spider too, because details matter. And the fact that we were able to get that much level of detail out of this particular scanner made it that much better. We probably catalog over 60 shoes. There's hundreds of shoes in the Saucony lifestyle from a 128-year-old brand with multiple different brands that were in and out before, multiple different sports, multiple different silhouettes. They are shoes that even go outside of running that are of great interest, where these things right here are what makes marketplace heat truly matter. And again, being able to always 3D scan and being able to 3D scan quickly. And also something that I wanted to mention to Isaac as well, when he was speaking about not having how quick it is to get up and running with this particular software. Artec Studio is very easy to use. It's very fast in order to get the scan in, get all the scans aligned, and be able to get that digital asset looking perfect. And this is something that Isaac and I are very proud of. Over the course of about 5 years that we've been scanning all of these very odd Saucony shoes in our historical database, it's been fascinating. And we have, again, many, many, many scans here. And getting those details right truly matters. From basketball shoes that Saucony created to odd odd walking shoes that we had, we're always looking backwards and we're always trying to find new details, new ways. There might be a new silhouette that we want to try to take that, modernize the manufacturing process against it, and be able to give it that same soul, very similar to the Matrix. But the cool thing is that because of manufacturing processes being that much better, foams being better, materials being better, we can build them better than they were 25, 30, 35 years ago. We get the look, we get the technology aspect of it, and they get to look absolutely perfect, because people who are Saucony fans, especially of our lifestyle product, the details matter, and we want to be sure that we're capturing every single one of those. Isaac, do you want to take through on the Matrix a bit more?
Yeah, so ultimately, this is sort of a breakdown of what bringing back the Matrix look like. We have our digital twin up there on the top. It's reverse engineered into workable 2D, 3D data. And for this project in particular, it's the shape of its grooves. If you actually take a close look at a shoe, the detail is so finite. It has this midsole shank that we really wanted to get the shape right. A lot of the outsole details, there's a million different things that we wanted to get right, and we were able to just with the quality of the scan.
And it was launched at Paris Fashion Week in 2024, which was just a huge, amazing way to celebrate all of this particular amazing shoe that's been part of Saucony's history. And then Isaac, this one's one of your favorites. I know you recently are launching this guy soon.
Yeah. So this is another collab project with our partner is Studio Nixon, which the shoe on the right there is actually coming out next week. So I went to the launch event in New York last week, and on the table they presented that old shoe on the left there with their new shoe right next to it, and it just made me think of how we're able to transform those old samples into modern product there. And just looking at that shoe, it's really beat up, but even from that we were able to get a great product out of it.
Isaac, this one was a very fascinating one we got to work on. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the Saucony Metagirl collab that we recently did. This was a fascinating one. Isaac, can you give a quick description of who Metagirl is?
Yeah. So Metagirl is an Italian designer. She does really awesome, almost customized shoes, and we're really excited to launch her first ever commercialized shoe. And when it comes to creativity, she is like so out of the box. And one day she came to us with almost like this prototype. What she had done, she took the Saucony our inline shoe and with almost modeling clay sculpted this seashell like heel counter that she asked if we were able to make this part of the shoe. And ultimately we were at a crossroads on how to do it, but it just came to us like, let's just scan it. And there we had, you can see it on the right. Those are the original scans with the modeling clay over the TPU shell. And we were able to send that to our manufacturing partners and get files going and tweak the design from there.
Yeah.
Um,
Being able the fact that we can have anybody 3D model, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to know CAD software. It's just modeling clay and to get your vision down on there, and then being able to digitize it, then using CAD software to bring it and refine it even further. That's where the bridge between just giving the accessibility to someone to make something digital where it truly matters here. This is something that I want to talk about. We have an amazing lifestyle business, but we're also a running shoe company. We make running equipment. And I wanted to specifically talk about the Saucony Endorphin Azura. This is a super recent launch that came from us where it's effectively a $150 speed shoe without any type of carbon fiber plate. I'm sure many of you have heard of super shoes. This is a segment that's a new marketplace segment of a no plated, geometrically derived performance shoe that we've done tons of engineering testing on. And believe me when I say, when we talk about high performance materials, when we talk about fit, when we talk about all the aspects of how a shoe comes together, getting that geometry down truly matters. And it's something that I spend quite a bit of time on. Just to give you a quick holistic look at the things that we try to put together, I always talk about shoes in two different ways. You have the soft goods portion of the shoe, which is the upper. That's what you stick your foot into. And then you have the bottom of the hard goods portion of it. This is what's traditionally made with either injection molding or steam chest molding or any type of manufacturing process across industry. Getting the fit geometry down truly matters, but also one of the technological call outs that we have on specifically on Endorphin Azura is called speed roll. And I have it here segmented in this half arc here where getting that forefoot rolling sensation geometry exactly right matters, especially to make sure it works over the course of many, many, many miles. And that's where much of the scanning comes in, where we can get a 3D file, we can manufacture, we can then reverse engineer that scan and do CAD comparisons in order to be sure that we're getting exactly what we're looking for. And we can check the before and after against that. It's also making sure it's getting that relationship between the shoe last, which is where a shoe truly starts. This is a hard form, almost envision it as a mannequin for shoemaking, and then getting the shoe upper right against the sole. We want to make sure that we're marrying up that relationship just fine. One of the cool things about the Saucony Endorphin Azura is it was drafted off of one of our top performing elite models called the Endorphin Elite 2. This is something that we spent quite a bit of time with last making on. I personally worked on the last on this one. It's something along the lines of we can print prototypes that are tangible. We might be able to change certain fit characteristics at that last level, sculpt away at it by hand. Again, we want to be sure that we can touch and feel and make sure the smoothnesses are there. And then if we have to reverse engineer by using the scanner again to bring it back into the digital realm, it makes it quite quick, especially when it comes from an iterative process where we might want to be able to work both in analog and both in digital. And again, being able to get the contouring, get the performance right, getting the feedback from the athletes, and then making the tweaks from there. This is what makes 3D scanning absolutely indispensable. And it's something that we've been doing for quite some time. I have to end our presentation with probably one of the most interesting things that I've ever done with our Artec 3D scanner, and it's with Minted New York. If you're not familiar with Minted, they are an apparel company that's based out of New York City. Isaac, myself, the entire team, we're super good partners with them. They're super good friends. They had a collab that they did where they took the Endorphin Speed 4 and they made their version of it. And it was completely blue. And these guys are big time thinkers. They want to go out big. They want to make sure their launches are very unique and different. And they asked me and they asked Isaac, they said, geez, it'd be really cool if we had a big, gigantic version of our shoe to show in our showroom on the launch event. And keep in mind, I'm into 3D printing. It's something that I'm truly passionate about. And I said, I believe we can do that. And we quite literally scanned it with our Artec 3D scanner. If you look here at the top here, this is their shoe, and the bottom, that's the scan quality that we're getting out of it. And that's the textured model. But again, going back to the details, getting the mesh right, getting the alignment of the logos, we know that the digital twin is going to be accurate. And all I did was I scaled it up. And if you look at the top right-hand corner here, we scaled it up, we cubed it up into 350 millimeter cubes to fit on our 3D printers. And we printed it one by one. It took about 2 weeks. One of the guys that works with minted clay, he ended up taking this giant 3D printed shoe. He painted all the sections white on it. That's me all the way in the right, holding one half of it just to show you just how big this thing was and how ridiculous it was. But it was also just awe-inspiring. And then right there in the middle is how they showcased it at the launch event. And that's what made it truly special, where people were walking up doing it saying, how the heck did you do that? And it's like, well, it's because we were able to digitize quickly and utilize all of our digital tools in order to bring a unique case and to storytell. Again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're not only building awesome products, but we're also telling awesome stories. And I just want to say thank you to the team at Artec, Paul, everybody there for inviting us to give this quick little webinar to talk about some of the very interesting use cases that we've used Artec 3D scanners for. I'll pass it back on to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And I hope everybody has a good morning or a good evening or wherever you are in the world.
Thank you once again to Luca and Isaac for all your insights and for joining us today. It was really cool to get the deep dive on how we use our products in design and marketing and quality control as well. Really cool. For those at home that have tuned in or in the office, thank you for joining us. If you have any follow-ups, please send them to info at artec3d.com. We'd be happy to answer them or push them forward to the guys to get some detailed answers for you.